Taehyung's POV. Seeing YN talking with someone so late at night and calling them love and assuring them that she will tell me very soon is stressing me out. So, before YN gets up, I got ready and left the home. I went to my office. In the office. I came to my office and sat on my chair. I loosened my tie a bit and removed my coat. This is all so suffocated. I don't know, but it is eating me up. I sighed as I closed my eyes, but without my knowing a lone tear slid from the side of my eyes. I can't take it anymore. This is the worst nightmare of my life. I want to get out of it. All the happy memories of me and YN are flashing before my eyes. How I love to see her smile. I can't even think about it to fade away. What should I do? If she is pleased with that guy, then I don't want her to be with me if she doesn't want to. Sigh, I guess divorce will be a good idea. I know I am going to break into pieces, but I can't make her suffer just because of my selfishness. Should call Taehyung.
Author's POV. Taehyung sighed again and again and then, after thinking a lot, called Jin, a famous lawyer in Seoul. Taehyung was depressed over something that isn't even confirmed yet, but after a lot of conflicts, he decided to give a divorce from YN. Time skip. Taehyung talked with Jin and said nothing other than for him to come to his office. Jin considers Taehyung his younger brother and cherishes him with all of his heart. So, after hearing Taehyung's depressed voice, he asked nothing, just said yes and told him that he would be there ASAP. Taehyung was closing his eyes when he heard a small knocking sound and saw Jin peeking inside. It was still early in the morning, so not many people were there in the office. Taehyung sat straight as he smiled at Jin, and Jin came inside and sat in front of Taehyung. Jin sighed after seeing black circles around Taehyung's eyes and asked what happened. Tae? Why do you look so stressed out? The tears which Taehyung was holding for so long are now dripping down his eyes. He continuously sobbed as Jin's eyes got widened to see such a strong person crying miserably. He went towards Taehyung and rubbed his back and asked why? What happened? Taehyung tried to control his tears and said in between, Hyung sob yn sob, she don't love me anymore. Jin was confused because he was unable to understand Taehyung. He rubbed his back continuously and tried to calm him down. Jin sighed and asked what happened. Tae? Why are you saying this? Taehyung was sobbing continuously as he explained his concern and things to Jin. Jin tried to calm Taehyung down and rubbed his forehead with his fingers and said there must be some misunderstanding. Taehyung, I think you should talk it out. Taehyung vigorously shook his head and said, no Hyung. I know she doesn't love me anymore. It's okay to fall out of love, but I am just heartbroken because YN is keeping a secret from me. Jin tried to explain to Taehyung to look from another phase, but he was persistent. In the end, Taehyung tried to understand what Jin was trying to explain and they concluded, Hyung, it is final now that you will at least got ready with the divorce announcement letter, and I will refrain from looking only from one perspective. However, if I found the slightest hint that she is cheating on me, I will be divorcing her because I want her to live her life with a smile, not with a burden. Jin nodded and said yeah. I will send it to you. Anyways, I should be going. Have a nice day. He patted Taehyung's shoulder and exited the office. It was almost time for employees to come and Taehyung was working on his laptop when suddenly he felt a sharp pain in his head. He grabbed his head and hissed in pain. Ah, this headache. Must be because I hadn't got a blink of sleep and I have so much work to do. He sighed as he leaned on his chair. This is not working. I should grab a cup of coffee and take a bit of fresh air. It might help to cool my nerves down.
Taehyung's POV. I was feeling a lot of distress, and on top of that, I have a bunch of work that I can't ignore. Coffee will help me, so I am going to get some coffee. But I will walk. I exited my office cabin and walked for some distance. Fresh air indeed helps to cool the nerves, and I feel a bit good. A lot of thoughts are running wildly inside my head and I don't know how to cool them down. Also, this headache is irritating me. Coffee is all I need for the day to boost my stamina. I came to this cafe and was going to go inside it when I saw YN from the glass wall. At first, I was confused to see YN there, but later my heart shattered into pieces when I saw her with a boy whose face is unable to be seen because he was facing his back towards the door. YN was smiling very much. It has been a while since I saw YN smiling that much. She is such an angel, such a beauty, my baby. But it breaks my heart into a million pieces knowing that I am not the reason behind her smile. That I have been a nuisance for her and being a burden at the top. I don't want that to happen. I should go now from here before YN sees me. I went from there and started going towards my office when I felt that my head is spinning. I grabbed my head and took support from the wall. I tried to be awake as much as possible, but my legs felt numb and I find myself falling on the ground. The last thing I saw was the hazy image of the people who gathered around me.
Author's POV. As Taehyung fell on the ground, the people gathered around him and crouched to see if he is awake or not. One of them pat his face to wake him but didn't work. We should call his family member. One of them said as everyone nodded and the other said yes and let's get him to the hospital. Everyone agreed as one person took his phone and went to his emergency call. He saw a contact on top named Wifey and he called for it. The other person took him to the hospital. YN's POV. Today I was feeling a bit sad because Taehyung was not there in the morning. Although, I got his sweet little note which brought a smile to my face. Taehyung is my everything. He is someone who always treasures me and I also treasure him too. I was doing some work when I got a call from Ash, and we made a plan to go to a cafe which is Ash's favorite. And, here I am with Ash. We were having quality time when I got a call from Taehyung. It again brought a smile to my face and I attended it very cheerfully. Hello Tae. What are you doing? I said as soon as I picked up the call but got an answer from someone else. The person said hello miss. The owner of this phone collapsed on the floor so we took him to the city hospital. We got your number saved as Wifey so we contacted you to know. I felt numb as the person completed and tears brought up in my eyes. I stood up abruptly and said oh okay. I will be there. Thank you so much for letting me know. I said as I cut the phone call and dashed towards the door when someone grabbed my hands from behind. I looked for that person and found my friend Ash. Ash was confused by my strange behavior and asked what happened sweetie? I shook my head and said Tae is in hospital. I should leave. I said as Ash said, I will take you there. I nodded my head and said, thank you. Time skip. I went inside the hospital and asked the reception girl excuse me, I am here to see the patient under Taehyung. He fainted and has been brought by the people. I said as reception looked for his name and said yes. He is in the general ward. You can go there. She informed me as I ran towards there and saw people gather over there and saw Taehyung lying unconscious. A person came towards me and asked hello miss. Are you his wife? I nodded my head as he gave me his phone and belonging and said it is his belongings. I took them all and bowed 90 degrees to show my gratitude and said thank you so much to bring him here. He nodded his head and left from there. I went towards Taehyung and saw 4 drips being attached to his hand. It brought tears to my eyes as I took his vacant hand and kissed them and said what happened Tae? What made you like this? I cannot see this state of Taehyung as my tears came out of my eyes and was sobbing continuously. Ash parked the car and came inside. What should I do, Ash? I asked as she sighed and said sweetie don't be like this. She hugged me and I hugged her too when I heard a coughing voice and looked toward Taehyung and saw him gaining consciousness. I went towards him and took his hand on mine. He opened his eyes slowly as he looked towards me and smiled a bit but his smile faded when he saw Ash. Why are you here? He asked very coldly. It breaks my heart to see him like this. I still tried to maintain my composure and said Tae, what are you saying? I am here to take you back home. He sighed and looked to the other side. I sighed and said, I will bring the doctor in. I went outside and after some time came back with the doctor. He examined Taehyung and said he is in a better shape. It was out of exhaustion and stress nothing else. I looked towards Taehyung and noticed that he is looking weak aloe the eye bags around his eyes. Why is it happening with Taehyung? I snapped out of my thoughts and nodded toward the doctor as he nodded and bowed a bit and left from there. Time skip. Ash drove us to our house and we all come inside. I also invited Ash because it might be rude if I know. I helped Taehyung sit on the sofa but he looked hesitant and jerked my hand very lightly. It was awkward as I walked slowly toward the kitchen and brought water for both of them. I came back and saw Taehyung giving daggers from his eyes to Ash. I sighed and said Tae. This is my friend Ash. Taehyung looked towards me and ignored it. What happened to him? He is not like this. Oh Lord. He tried to stand up and I went to him to give support when he again removed my hand from his and said, "You don't have to YN." I am so confused and frustrated and asked, "What happened, Tae?" He glared at me and said nothing as he continued to walk to the room. I excused myself from Ash and went to my room as well. I came inside and saw him sitting on the bed and burning his head on his hands. I sat beside him and took his hands on mine and saw her teary eyes. It was shocking to me because Taehyung is a very tough boy and I hardly ever saw him crying. I took his face in my hand and asked, "What happened, Taehyung?" He shook his head and said something very shocking. "Are you happy with that man?" I was beyond shock. Why is he saying something like this? I shook my head and said, "What are you saying, Taehyung?" "Which boy?" He cried again and said, "Don't make a fool out of me, YN. I know you and that boy downstairs has something going on." He completed his sentence and I wonder which boy is he referring to. When my mind started working and I realized he is talking about Ash. I looked toward him and said, "Oh Lord Taehyung, are you talking about Ash?" He nodded and I made him look toward me and said, "Taehyung, Ash is not a boy." He was confused at first so I sighed and continued, "She is a girl who has an interest in girls so she keeps his appearance like a boy." He was beyond shock as he confirmed, "It means it's not he but SHE?" H asked like a lost puppy as I nodded my head and said yes. He burst into tears as he leaned on the bed and lay down. I looked at him and wonder why he thought so. I caressed his head as he looked toward me and asked, "Then why were you talking to her at night times? You could have called her in the daytime." Oh my God, since when he has these thoughts? I apologetically looked at him and said, "Tae, she lives in America and came today." He looked at me and again asked, "I eavesdrop a bit when you were talking to her the previous night. Then what it is that you want me to know?" Oh my God, he also heard it. I don't have any option now. I inhale and then exhale and said in one breath, "I am pregnant." Taehyung looked at me being confused and asked, "What did you say?" I built up my courage and said, "I am pregnant." He looked toward me bewildered and stood up and said, "Really? Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" He asked visibly excited as I said, "In some weeks we have your birthday coming. So I decided to surprise you with this and it was Ash's idea so that's why we talk very often." I reasoned as he apologetically looked toward me and Neil and said, "I am sorry YN. I doubt you. But I only wanted to make you happy, that's why even if I have to leave you for your happiness then I would do that happily. I know it was hard to do but at least it would be an assurance that you are happy. I am shocked to see that this man can go to lengths just to see me happy whether it is hurting him." I kneeled too as I hugged him and we both cried in each other's arms. He is my everything and I am his, just as I said earlier. After a while, we both stood up as he crouched to my tummy and kissed my bump, which is a bit visible now, and said, "I am sorry princess, I made your mommy worry. I will treat you and her like my queens." I squinted my eyes as I asked, "How do you know it's a girl? It might be a baby boy like you." I was caressing his face as he said, "No. I need a baby girl just like you." He kissed my bump again and stood up. We both smiled at each other and he kissed my lips. Unable to resist, I also kissed him back. We kissed passionately and yet gently, sealing our love through it. After a while, we broke our kiss and joined our heads and said, "I said you have to talk to me whenever you have any doubt, Tae. How am I supposed to know anything happening inside your head if you don't tell me?" He nodded and kissed my forehead and said, "Yes, I will." We both hugged each other and stayed like that for some time. After, I introduced Ash to Taehyung and they become very good friends as well. Taehyung is so happy to know about my pregnancy that he is jumping here and there in happiness, and it makes me happy too, right baby? I asked, placing my hand on my tummy. Conversation is a key in a relationship. If love is one art of contribution, then the conversation is another half. I have a request for my bunnies. Please like my videos and shorts because if you like them then YouTube will recommend them to more people and it will help me to gain views. Also please comment your thoughts for this Twoshot because it's my first time making something like this. Thank you and happy watching.